Welcome to another episode of the Daily Honor Roll. Today is August 26th of 2013. And today I'm going to be talking about a good friend of mine that I met in third grade. That was almost 40 years ago. Almost 40 years ago I met this man. Of course, we were children back then. The year was 1973. Elvis got a divorce. The pet rock was a big fad back then. That was the year Nixon resigned. Of course, I was in third grade. Really, the only one I cared about was the pet rock, and I didn't have one. So I went out to the garden and got my own pet rock because my parents were not going to spend money for a rock in a box that there was nothing special about. And that pet rock died. So I didn't have it very long. Anyway, in third grade, I met a man that I've known for almost all of my life, who's been a friend for as long as I can remember. The kind of friend that everybody wishes they could have. I met a bunch of people in third grade, and I can remember most of the names. There's Terry Lynch and David Merrill and Karen Hines and Brenda Colorelli. I remember Joe Mignot and Mike Nave. I met them, and I'm still connected with them. But there was even Donald Fagen. And for any of my friends that are listening that knew me in third grade, they know how funny that is, and I'm not going to go into detail. However, Bill Gausnell, or as he was affectionately called in third grade, Billy, we became friends in third grade. And we've been friends ever since. My earliest memories of being friends with Bill, of course, were running around the schoolyard at Liggett Elementary in Panorama City. I don't know if any of you can remember why you became friends with anybody. I can't. I can't remember why we became friends. I just know we did, and I'm glad we did. We would play. We'd spend a lot of time together in the schoolyard, running around and playing. I remember being in Cub Scouts with Bill and making candles. That's probably my most vivid memory of being in Cub Scouts. Of course, I remember meeting at the Fagan's house for Scouts, which is why that's funny if Bill's listening to this, which I'm sure he will at some point. He's going to be laughing. I just remember, being kids together. It was the 70s. It was the mid-70s, in San Fernando Valley, a suburb of Los Angeles. It was relatively safe. I don't think it was a horrible neighborhood. I say that is because I remember being in grade school, and I don't think this was as early as third grade, but it may have been sixth grade. I would walk to Bill's house or to Joe's house. They lived in the same area. All of my friends from grade school seemed to live in the same area of the San Fernando Valley, which was, the other side of Woodman. You'd have to walk down Tupper Street to Terabella and then take Terabella across Woodman. And then I don't remember the names of the streets there. My friends would, because that was their neighborhood, but I just remember how to get to houses. I would remember how to walk to the houses. In fact, if I drove there today, I may be able to drive to some of the houses. But that's where Bill Gausnell lived, and I remember I would go to his house and play with him at his house. And I don't know, he had a couple of sisters. He was a good brother, but I remember they would taunt him. They would tease him. They would sing that song, Billy Boy, and I can't really remember it. You fill your mom's heart with joy or something like that, but I just remember he would get so mad at being called Billy. That I think I would, and I had an older brother named Billy. So, it's just, I remember he had his sisters, Tiffany and Julie. And I was close friends with Bill in grade school, and I was kind of friends with them. But when you're a kid, the younger sisters of your friends, they aren't as cool to hang out with unless it's in private. So whenever I'd go over to their neighborhood to play with them, I would hang out with all three of them. I don't ever remember hanging out with Julie or Tiffany in school. I think that we were possibly Too cool doesn't really seem to make sense. I don't remember. I was not a cool kid. I was a dork, and I've got pictures to prove it. I was dressed up in those patterned polyester shorts, pants, and the huge collared shirts. And I'm sure that we all have pictures like that. So don't go pretending that I'm the only dork in the neighborhood. But I just remember. I remember I was not one of the cool kids, and I don't know if Bill thinks he was one of the cool kids or not, but I just remember being friends with him and hanging out and having fun with him. Of course, a few years later, 76, 77, you graduate or you promote. I guess they're calling it promotion now. I remember graduating out of 6th grade, going to 7th grade, and it was a whole new school. It was Sepulveda Junior High School, or Francisco Sepulveda Junior High School. I believe it's on Parthenia and Sepulveda in what's known as North Hills now. It used to just be called Sepulveda back when I was a kid. I don't understand why they've got to change names. Does North Hills really sound better than Sepulveda? I mean, come on. It's not really going to change anything, is it? Except for, how you got to address your letters. A feeble attempt on a Monday morning to be funny. I'm sorry for that. Anyway, when we got to junior high school, I remember I felt a little distant from Bill. I don't think I spent as much time with Bill in junior high school. Bill was focused. He really was. Bill was more focused than I was on school. For whatever reason, he was. I know he joined band, and I believe he could always draw. My friend Bill has always been an amazingly talented and gifted artist. You would ask him to draw something and he would draw it, and it would be incredible. And I have memories of that laced throughout our friendship, throughout our history together. Just amazing things that he's drawn that he would sit down and do, and I'm just like effortlessly, I'm going to do this and this, and all of a sudden, on the page there's this great comic effect of like a comic book character or a dragon or a werewolf, just any army man. He just seemed to have a talent for art, and that's one thing I always remember with him. But and again, in junior high school, I'm not sure if he pursued art in junior high school. I know he was in band, and I know we had some contact, but I really felt like we reconnected. 1980 is the year we started at James Monroe High School, also in North Hills. And that's where I felt like we really reconnected. And of course, after you've spent some time away from a friend, getting reconnected is kind of cool. It takes a little time to kind of get into that groove. That's really where Billy became Bill. In high school he was Bill, and we took some art classes together. I've always wanted to be able to draw. I've always wanted, and if I work hard at it, I can create some stuff that's nice to look at. But it takes too long, and it's too much effort, and I don't have the attention for it. To be honest with you, I don't have a passion or desire for it, and it doesn't do anything for me except frustrate me. I believe, in fact, that I stopped drawing. I really stopped putting an effort into it. I had a picture. I was exploring pointillism, and that's where you have these different sized pins, and you would make dots on the page to add the shadow effect on things. And I had drawn this picture, and I believe it was a clipper or a large sailboat, and something got spilled on it, and it got ruined. And I believe that was the last time I really ever put my attention or heart into drawing anything. Anyway, back to Bill, because I want to honor Bill in this. Bill and I, we started sharing or taking some classes together in high school. And one of the classes I remember more than anything, hanging out with Bill in stage crew, being a part of the stage crew together, and hanging out with our friends. We had Alex and Alex Silva and Sunil Shorey with Chris Block, Jim Carson. Just the Brad Glassman, the core, and Andy Langston. I don't mean to leave anybody out, but just the stage crew was my high school experience. We just had our 30-year anniversary for our high school reunion. And if I knew those guys were going to be there, I would have paid the $150 for the ticket so the $300 for tickets for me and my wife, plus the travel expense. If I knew those guys were going to be there, I would be there. I don't think Bill went either. I haven't spoken with him. And I tend to lose contact with my friends. I know I'm doing the honor roll to honor the men who have had an impact in my life, and it always brings a desire for me to reconnect with them. So I went to look for Bill's phone number this morning. It's a familiar story. I don't have his phone number in my phone. Of course, that's par for the course. I tend to drop the important details, like when I change phones, porting over all my numbers. So I'm looking forward to. I've sent him an email, and I've connected. I've contacted him on Facebook. I look forward to the harassment that's coming for me losing his number. But in high school, I think we did stage crew together. Billiam, there was some nicknames being thrown around. Some of them I can say, a couple I can't. Only because I don't think I really understand them or know if they're actually true, or if that was just from hanging out with friends outside of school. So we also took some art classes together. Mr. Zielinski was the art teacher at James Monroe, and I remember that he was a great teacher. Half the class would always be sitting there listening to him. He was a big fan of the Louvre in France, and sitting in class, we'd listen to stories, or he'd show slides, or he'd talk about art, and it was just it was a very laid back class. I was, which I love that class, by the way, if you have to know. And art, the art class would always help me in high school as well. I took government with Mr. Ropo, or California government, or any other kind of government, and my grade wasn't the best, and He'd say, well, if you bring me if you could draw me the seal of the United States, or the seal of the state of California, or anything else that was government related, if you draw that for me, I'll make that extra credit. It'll improve your grade. So I found myself drawing like 3 different drawings for Mr. Ropo over my high school career, to increase my grade. Mr. Ropo was the coolest teacher ever. I always look back and smile on that. And I think Bill and I don't know if we shared a class, but we would talk about Ropo, and he was just a funny guy. What's the matter, you? Hey. And that song came out when we were in high school. And anyway, so, that was really the formulation of the foundation. Stage crew was really, that's where we locked in. We kind of really connected in stage crew, because, that's where young men, they get to go and build things and hit things with hammers and bond together and have fun, and then also learn some structure and how to make things work, how to do a stage production. That was a big deal for us in high school. And of course in high school, that's when young men get their driver's license and get cars. And so that was another point of bond. I remember Jim Carson took me for a ride in he had a 1960, I think it was a 65 Baja Bug, and he let me drive it back we went to lunch at McDonald's, and he let me drive it back to the high school, and I remember that was it. I was in love. I wanted a Volkswagen. It didn't matter. I wanted a Bug, and it didn't matter. I was going to do whatever it took to get a Bug. And I remember Bill and I, we went shopping for Volkswagens together. We went and this was later in life, but in high school, I found a Bug and I bought it, and it was a piece of crap car. It had a big hole in the floorboard, where the battery goes. For the users that don't know, in the 60s, Volkswagen, I don't know if that's 70s and beyond, but in 1963 to 65 Volkswagens in those era, the battery for the car was under the back seat, on the passenger side, and the pan in a Volkswagen, or at least in this Bug, had been rusted out. So the battery was actually sitting on 2 2x4s, which extended past the size of the hole. So yeah, that was my first car. And I remember Bill would help me. He would work on it with me. Bill was always very willing. He was probably, if I asked, and it was in any way, shape, or form possible to help me with it, Bill would help me with it. Bill Gausnell, I don't remember him saying no to help me with anything. He actually helped me find a great job. Bill and I worked together at Alpha Beta on Sepulveda Boulevard in Nordhoff. Well, at the time I didn't think it was too much of a favor for him to tell me about the job, because we worked for Betty Foley. Now, in hindsight, Betty Foley was probably one of the best bosses I ever had. She was rough, and she was like a drill sergeant, and she commanded authority wherever she went. She wanted her store, she wanted scores of 9s and 10. She wanted 10 out of 10 in any area where you could get it. That's what she wanted. She demanded it. And funny story about that. I was receiving milk off the milk truck, and the dock at this store was low compared to what trucks were. So the truck would pull up, and the ramp coming out of the back of the truck would be kind of steep. It would be a very steep incline. And these, milk crates hold 6 gallons of milk. And then you get them stacked up 5 or 6 high. And so you could be carrying 36 gallons of milk, in a rack. And I'm not sure exactly what that weighs, but it's heavy. I can promise you that. Think about picking up a 5-gallon bottle to put it on the little sparklets machine that's in your kitchen or dining room, and then just imagine how heavy that is. Now, 36 gallons of milk is very heavy. So I'm coming off the back of this ramp, and it starts to get away with me. It's gravity takes over, and this stack of milk on this 2-wheeler takes off down this ramp. It hits the dock, which causes it to come to a complete stop. Now, all the while, I'm holding on to the 2-wheeler for dear life, like a ride at an amusement park. When it stops, I see the stack is going over. It's going to fall over, and all I can think about is 36 gallons of milk. And if you know my love for milk, first of all, that's reason enough to throw myself in front of a moving car. This stack is falling over. I reach out to grab this stack, and I pull back on it. Well, when I pull back on this stack, my right foot slips under the protective bar on the back of this 2-wheeler and is directly under where this 36 gallons of milk is going to land. And it just lands on my big toe with all of that weight, and it hurts. And it hurts real bad. Now, I pick up, I lean forward, I lean the stack forward, pull my leg out, and I continue to work. We get the milk unloaded. I get it in the dairy box, and I'm limping around. The truck driver goes, "You probably should really look at that." So I hop myself up on the desk, pull my shoe off, and the whole front end of my sock is bloody. So I'm like, uh-oh. So I pull my sock off, and my whole toe, the nail on my toe is probably 2 times the size it should be. And the nail on my toe is just black and gnarled, and it's horrible looking. Horrible. And the first thing I thought is, Betty's going to kill me. Betty was going to kill me if the milk fell. Betty's going to kill me that I hurt my toe. And it was probably the most human I've ever seen her. Of course, I cover my foot up and I go limping up to the office. I call her on the, we had these phones, these intercoms. You had red line or green line. I call her on the phone and I'm like, yeah, I hurt myself unloading the truck. And of course I can hear it in her voice. She's like, she's loading her gun. She's like, okay, I need to see you in the office. I can hear her, she's sharpening her sword. I can hear it in the background grinding. I'm like, oh, I'm dead. I'm so fired. I can't believe it. I did the, I'm 18 years old. I'm a little panicky. So we go up to the office and we're sitting in the office. It's just the 2 of us in the office. And she turns around and she goes, "What were you thinking?" And she almost had a little bit of a curl of a smile on her face. She goes, "What were you thinking?" And, it was the first time I was ever very candid. And I'm like, look, I didn't want to lose the milk. I know how, I don't want to lose the product. I know that you were going to be upset at me if the milk dumped. You're going to yell at me. And she goes, "Well, you've hurt your foot. Now I've got to file all this paperwork. What do you think I'm going to do now?" She goes, "Yeah, you were pretty much in a lose-lose situation on that one. I'm going to have to give you credit for at least trying." And she smiled. And from that point forward, she was still a hard boss, but it just kind of changed my perspective on it. Anyway, Bill got me that job at Alpha Beta, and I was eternally grateful. It really gave me an insight to understanding grocery retail. I worked there for several years with Bill. I moved on to go do some other stuff. I got transferred to the meat department. I didn't like it, lost my job, and I went to work for Maggie Shutters. But Bill was still working at Alpha Beta. Now the one night that Bill was working there one night, and there were some shoplifters in the store, and the boss, his name is Larry. I don't remember his last name, but as you can tell by the tone of my voice, I blame Larry for this. It was kind of a rough neighborhood around 84, 83, 84, 85, we'll say, is about the time that neighborhood just started to decline. Sepulveda Boulevard was very seedy. It had a lot of gang element. There was prostitution. It was in decline. The neighborhood was in decline. That's all I can say. And a group of young men had come into the store to shoplift, and they had trench coats on, and of course I didn't see any of this. I'm going off the story that I've heard, and Larry had told Bill to stand in front of the door and not let them leave. Now he's a big guy. He's not a bodybuilder, but he's over 6 foot and he's well built. In that day, he may not have been as well built as he is now, but he's certainly an imposing character if he sets his mind to it. And these young men come walking towards him, and he's like, "I can't let you leave." And Bill's very amiable, and I'm sure he was very nice about, "Hey guys, I can't let you leave," because that's what he was told to do. The first guy pushes past him. The second guy goes to push past him, and Bill puts his hand on his shoulder to spin him around, because you're not going to just push past anybody, with Bill's character. And the guy comes up with a shotgun and hits him directly in the face with the butt of the shotgun, right on the cheekbone, under his right eye. I believe it was his right eye, and just drops him to the floor. Shattered his cheekbone. That speaks more. And what happened next is there was a big fight that happened, because of course, all the clerks, Keith, I can't remember his last name, was a black belt in Taekwondo. We had some pretty cool guys that we worked with. These guys go out and they engage these guys in a fight in the parking lot, and the cops come up and show them. But Bill went to the hospital. He had shattered his cheekbone in his face, and I remember going to see him in the hospital, and he didn't have a negative thing to say about anybody in that situation except the guy with the shotgun that hit him. Bill has always been the first person to say something nice about somebody when somebody else doesn't think they deserve it. And I'm more times than not, I'm ashamed to say that I was that person that would say something not nice. Bill would always defend somebody's character. Bill always seemed to find the best in people, or believe the best in people. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything negative about anybody. I remember a couple of friends of ours had friends we were in stage crew with. It was Jim Carson and Chris Block had a falling out over something, a car or something, as young men will, and Chris and Bill were really good friends. Always been really good friends. And Chris. Bill really didn't take Chris's side. Jim kind of dropped off the grid. But, Bill would never say anything negative about anybody, and he would never speak negatively of Jim whenever we were all be together. As I said, Bill would always have a man's back. He would always, and he would have my back. In fact, he was my best man when I got married to Brendan's mother in 1989. And he wasn't saying anything bad, but he drove me to where we were going to get married. And I remember him asking me, "Are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure this is the right decision? Are you sure you don't have to get married?" And he was very clear. There's nothing wrong with Roberta. There's nothing wrong with her. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be with her, but are you ready? And I almost think that was him asking, more, protecting me from me, to ask me if I was ready to be a husband, and not really fully knowing how to articulate the question. And I always remember that about Bill. He's always been a good guy. I remember driving out to Calico Ghost Town with him, which is out in San Bernardino County. And I think it was a weekday, so of course it's a tourist attraction, and it wasn't open for business, so there was nothing fun going on. But I remember just kind of walking around Calico Ghost Town with him and looking at all the different stuff. I remember going to see the midnight showing of Terminator 2. And waiting in line. I remember music. I mean, a lot of times when I do the Daily Honor Roll, I try to find music that kind of is a spot weld moment for me and that person. And I really don't have that with Bill. I don't have any specific music. If you ask me what's the music you have for Alex Silva, I say Motley Crue. What's the music you have for Chris Block? Duran Duran. And not because he loved Duran Duran, because he would always make fun of the song Rio. But that was me and Bill. I don't have that type of memory with Bill, but I do have movies. I remember movies, Escape from New York especially, Terminator, the Terminator movies, anything where stuff is blowing up. I can also remember that Bill helped me move countless times, so yeah, like I said, I have always known if I ever needed him, he'd be there for me. He can help. He was the guy I called when I needed help. He was the relationship that was given to me as a support, and I pray that I was that support for him as well. I know, I remember when I was married to my first wife, Roberta, she and we took a trip. We went up to, I think we went to Oregon, either that or we went to South Dakota. I can't remember. Those are the only two big trips we ever took. But we had cats. We had Sylvester, and I don't remember the other cat's name, but Sebastian. And we left and we asked Bill to take care of the apartment. Now, I have not always been a good housekeeper. And our apartment was in a bit of disarray. In fact, I think our kitchen had dishes in it and there was stuff. We came home from our trip and the apartment was immaculate. He had cleaned the entire apartment for us. And granted, that was not part of the taking care of the cat. And I know the cat didn't do it, but that speaks to Bill's character. You ask for a cup of milk, he'll give you a quart. Bill is one of the most caring and loving individuals I know. He's a dad. I guess his daughter has just recently turned 19. He's an attentive dad. He's never been married, and I'm just amazed that he's never been married because I think he'd be an amazing husband and father. In fact, he has been an amazing father, I'm sure. But I'm not, and I don't know. Like I said, I lost contact. I moved to Arizona in 1999, and we really lost contact. At that time, we talk every once in a while. He's been out to visit. He came out here to visit, and we went kicking around Colossal Cave and kicked around Tucson a little bit. We've been out to visit him in L.A. or at least stay at his house. He's got a place out in Canyon Country. Yeah. So friends for almost 40 years. And I'd have to say that Bill, even though I'm still connected to Joe Mignot and Mike Nave, Bill Gausnell and I bonded in third grade, and that just never really, it's been tested, it's been put on hold, it's been strained at times. And I know there's been strain in our relationship, but I can't remember any of the details, which speaks to our ability to resolve any stress. So Bill Gausnell is I would give him the highest rating possible for any man who is a friend to another man. And I've known a lot of men. I've known a lot of men that will say they trust you and that they say they will show up. And out of that number of men, I would say that most of them do. But I can count on one hand the men who will absolutely show up regardless of what the situation is. I can count those guys on one hand, and Bill Gausnell is on that hand. It's in today's in the age of today, it's not socially acceptable for men to say that they love each other, but I love William Gausnell. He is an incredible man. I respect him as much as any man can respect another man. I'm deeply honored to call him my friend, and if he ever needed anything from me that I could do, there would be, if he needed me today, if he was in an absolute dire emergency where he had to have me there with him for any reason, he could pick up the phone and call me, and I would make it happen. That's my friend Bill Gausnell. That's all I've got. I really, I could talk about Bill for hours. Just like I talked about my brother, I could tell stories for hours. But that's all the time I've got this morning. Really, just want to thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into the Daily Honor Roll. I usually get about 30 hits on the show. I don't know if people were listening all the way to the end. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how many people on this planet can take 30 minutes of my droning and talking. I know my wife can, and I know that she listens, so I say hello to Christina. I want to thank you for listening again to the Daily Honor Roll. I'll be back September 2nd at 10 a.m. Right now, the schedule sticks. If you'd like to send feedback on this, my email is wayne.daily@mantucson.com. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm going to say thank you and have a wonderful day. Jokers to the right.